Henry was first released in the Ertl range in 1986. Like other Ertl tender engines, Henry was quite long, and his tender was moulded into his main body. He had a white running board and buffer beam, and white side rods. He had 2 loop couplings at either side. These were moulded at the same rotation at either side, meaning you couldn't couple him and other engines together, which I and most likely other people hated as a kid. Stickers were used for multiple details on Henry: his front windows, his buffer detailing, and most notable of all, his face, which was based off of his Railway Series appearance. Henry's model was updated the following year in 1987, changing his buffer beam, running board and side rods from white to red. In 1990, Henry's face was changed to be 3D printed. What it is based off of is unknown. In 2003, Henry's back coupler was changed to be a U-hook coupling, which now allowed you to be able to couple him and other engines together. Henry also received a couple of variants in the Ertl range, a miniature version of him and a metallic model. In 2004, the Ertl range was discontinued and replaced by the Take-Along range, which launched 2 years prior in the US in 2002. The models in the Take-Along range were much different than the Ertl range and in my opinion, much better. Henry's face is much more accurate to his classic TV series appearance. He now has smart magnet couplings, meaning he can couple to other engines in rolling stock with ease. He was shorter and more in scale with other engines. His tender was now separate, his stripes and cylinder is now printed, and the sticker details were gone and replaced with printed ones. Henry's Take-Along model was also released in the Japanese version of the range called Die-Cast Metal. Henry received a few variants in the Take-Along range: a cross Henry from the Henry and the Elephant Deluxe Playscene, a metallic Henry and a cancelled Holiday Henry. In 2010, the Take-Along range was discontinued and replaced by the Take and Play range. The Take and Play models were similar to the Take-Along models, but were improved on from them. Henry's paint was now a darker green, his handrails are now painted, and his number on his tender is now TV series accurate and less cartoon-like, and he has a new face, based off of one of his smiling face masks in the model series. Henry received a couple variants in the 2010 range: a gold dust covered Henry in the Henry and the Goldmine pack, and a talking Henry. In 2013, the Take and Play range was redesigned. The paint of Henry was now a slightly lighter shade of green. He now has pin axle wheels and no longer has his frames painted. When first released, 2013 Henry had the same face as the 2010 Henry, but was soon changed to be a CGI styled face like the other engines. In early 2014, Henry's buffers were no longer painted, most likely to cut costs. 2013 Henry received a couple variants: a talking Henry like in the 2010 range, and a pull and zoom Henry. In July 2014, the Take and Play range was redesigned yet again. He was now shorter in length and height, his cab windows were no longer hollow and were now filled in, his handrails and stripes are now painted and not moulded, he now has fewer wheels, now having 6 wheels on his main body, with one of the missing set and unpainted mould on his chassis, and 4 wheels on his tender, a slightly different face, and the most infamous change being the round one-way magnets, which annoyingly only allowed engines to be coupled together one way round. The only variant Henry received in the 2014 range was a talking Henry. In 2017, the Take and Play range was discontinued and replaced with the Adventures range, also known as Collectible Railway in some countries, which launched in 2014. The Adventures model of Henry wasn't too different from the 2014 design of the Take and Play model. He was a slightly different green, which didn't apply to the Collectible Railway model. His model now had a Fowler tender, which was die-cast in the Adventures range but plastic and had a green buffer beam in the Collectible Railway range, and he now had rotatable hook and loop couplings, which allowed the engines to be coupled any way round once again. In 2019, the Adventures range was discontinued and replaced by the Trackmaster Push-Along range, which was changed to be called Push-Along in 2020. Henry was now longer as all the tender engines shared the same chassis now, the moulded wheels were gone, and his 6 wheels on his main body was now distanced apart equally, which I must say looked very weird. His tender now had large engine wheels, which looked very weird proportionally, and his tender was stretched. Despite looking absolutely weird, he does have his correct tender shape again. He also now had Trackmaster couplings, yet again not allowing engines to be coupled together any way round. In 2021, the Thomas & Friends TV series was rebooted to All Engines Go, and the Push-Along range was redesigned to base the models on how the engines look in the reboot. Despite only cameoing in the show, Henry received the Push-Along model in 2023. Because his All Engines Go design is a modified version of Gordon, so was his Push-Along model. The only differences between Henry and Gordon's push-along model being a slight face change, a different boiler shape, and Henry's green livery and number 3 on his tender. For the most part, Henry is one of the best looking models in the Thomas diecast range, being one of the larger engines and being quite detailed pre-2014. Of all Henry's models, my favourite model has to be the 2010 model. It is the most detailed and accurate version of Henry in the diecast range. It is not perfect like any model, but is still a brilliant model nevertheless. The only improvement I'd make to it is improving the face. While still being based off of an actual Henry face in a TV series, it didn't look too much like that at first to me. Mainly because of the eyebrows being too thick and close to the eyes, unlike the face mask it was based on. Being the first evolution video covering an engine, this was pretty fun to make. Going through all the different versions of Henry to describe the differences between them is very different to past evolution videos I've done where I've gone through a particular range or set. To see what I mean, I recommend you watch my latest video, which was the evolution of the talking engines in the Thomas diecast range. That is all I've got to say for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!